Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I realize I've been a slacker lately and I haven't done anything except for my January TBR, which went great by the way. However, I wanted to do a wrap up. I'm really behind, obviously, since I haven't done it at all this year. So I'm going to do January, February, March, and April, and then I will try to get better for May. We'll see how that goes. But here we go. Okay. My first book of the year was Dead Men Walking by Giana Darling. Um, I'm caught up with that series now, and I am so excited. I love it so much. I cannot wait for the new one to come out, which is this month since we're in May. But I'm so excited. I love that one. Dead Man Walking was probably my favorite one with Inked in Lies. Um, but I loved it so much. So good. The next one that I read was Born Darkly, which is a duet by Trisha Wolfe. I really liked the first one. I did give it 4 stars, but I liked it. I just felt like the thing, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I liked it. I liked this one. I do want to try to read more Trisha Wolfe because I did like this book. It just wasn't my favorite. The next one that I read was Secrets We Hunt, which is the One Night series. I have loved both of these books now in the series that I've read. The third one comes out, I think, soon, but I don't remember exactly. And it, like, the Secrets We Hunt was a second chance romance, and it was so good. For a novella, like, I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars. People We Met on Vacation by Emily Henry. I enjoyed this one. So, it was a book of the month book that I had to catch up on. So, I did enjoy this book. However, it wasn't my favorite, but I liked it. It was cute. It was fun. I really enjoyed all the traveling in it. It made me want to travel. So, that was fun. The next one that I read was a memoir that I had pre-ordered. It's the opposite of Butterfly Hunting, by Evanna Lynch, who plays Luna Lovegood in Harry Potter. And this is like her memoir dealing with her eating disorder and like all of that. And wow, it was moving. I don't give like any nonfiction books ratings normally, but I really loved this that I ended up giving it a 5 star review. Because like the things she was saying that she felt, like I felt that too. Like I didn't deal with an eating disorder, but wow, could I relate to her? And I loved it. I didn't like what was happening. I felt really bad for what she was dealing with, but like it was nice that I could relate to her, and I didn't feel alone while I was reading it, you know? I don't know. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So then after that one, I did finish the duet Born Madly by Trisha Wolfe, and I didn't like this one that much. I gave it 3 stars. It had some good points, but like I liked the first one better. I just kind of wish like it was all in one book, because some of the stuff that I like that you were reading in it, I felt like I didn't need it. I didn't need it. But I did like some of the aspects of this book. And then I did a reread because I don't know if you knew. I don't know if I said this in the January TBR, I can't remember, but I had been thinking about Punk 57 for like 3 months straight, and I couldn't get some of the scenes out of my head, and like I ended up deciding to reread it for January to see if, because I originally gave it a 4 star rating and I was starting to doubt my 4 star rating on it. So I reread it and I ended up giving it 5 stars. Like, I don't know, maybe it was because I was in a different headspace at the time of the first time I read it, but like, it was, I don't know why I gave it 4 stars the first time. It was so good. I loved it. I love bully romances. I don't know if you know that, but I love bully romances. Misha and Ryan, love them both. I may have a crush on both of them individually. She was just like, Ryan was just so understandable and relatable. While like I wasn't in the same situations as her, it was easy to understand, like going through high school, what it was like for her and why she did some of the things she did. And then Misha, that's all I have to say. If you don't know, you don't know. You should read it. You'll understand. Then the next book that I read was The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which, Mariana Zapata, come on, I'm trying to read the whole backlist. And I really liked The Wall of Winnipeg. Like, it was so good. Loved it. It was Marriage of Convenience, by the way, which I don't always like Marriage of Convenience, but recently I've realized since I've read that one, I've been giving them more chances, and they have been actually really good lately. The next book was, because I had to jump on this bandwagon, I read Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, and oh my Lanta, loved it so much. Loved it. My best friend and I ended up reading this. If you didn't notice, one of my best friends ended up reading like a few books with me this year, and it made me feel so good because I had somebody I could be like, oh my god, like, did you read this yet? Like, this is crazy. And I liked when she was ahead of me so that like I didn't spoil anything, because I'm that person that will message you and be like, duh, did you read what happened right there? And it'll be a spoiler, and she'd be upset with me. She don't like spoilers. So it was nice when she was ahead of me and I could spoil it because she already knew. And the next one that I read was another Book of the Month book. I was, at the beginning of the year, trying to read all my Book of the Month. I still am, but I am struggling. I think I need to go through all of my Book of the Month books again and maybe get rid of some of the genres that I did not like that I've already read with them, or I can just give them a chance and listen to the audiobook of it. I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna figure it out. But anyways, this book was Love and Other Disasters. I thought this was so cute. I loved the cooking show. I loved the characters. I loved some of the situations. The ending was adorable. But I don't know, something felt like it was missing. I don't know. The next one that I read in January was The Affair by Giana Darling, which, let me tell you why. There was a list of how to read some of Giana Darling's books that somebody posted. I don't remember. I'll try to like insert it here to show you the reading order, but it starts with this series, goes into one of the other siblings, which is a duet, and then goes to the last sibling that is affected by this first like trilogy, and like then it goes into hers. So I didn't want to start hers until I read all of the other ones. So I started this one. This is The Affair, and this is part of a trilogy. I liked this one. So this whole first book is the actual affair and how it happens and what happens all the way up until the end, because they're like, she's on a vacation and he's there for like a business trip or something like that, and they meet up not realizing like who the other one is, and then it goes like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So this one is just The Affair, and I loved this one. I gave it 4 stars. However, it really bothered me with him. Like, he had a girlfriend. He shouldn't have done it. Like, I do not feel bad for the girl as much because she was single. She does not know who he was at all, and she had no idea, which made me kind of sad. I don't know. I liked it though. The next one I did not like as much. I read this because I had seen people talking about it all over YouTube, all over Book Talk, and I was like, I love pirates. I know that sounds weird, but this book is Sea of Ruins by Pam Godwin, and people were raving about this book. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. I ended up buying the audiobook of it, and it was 3 stars for me. I did not like that book as much as I thought I would with how everybody was talking about it, but there was a lot. It was very dark, which makes me kind of sad because the cover is like so beautiful. So beautiful. I did not expect it to be that dark. I should have though, because people were talking about it. But the first, like, you need to check your trigger warnings for this because as soon as the book opens up, like, there's triggers already. So check your trigger warnings before you read this book, okay? I'm not kidding. I want you to not read it if you are triggered by anything that happens in this book. And then, so after that disappointment, I decided to read the next one in the Evolution of Sin trilogy, The Secret by Giana, darling. So this one ended up being a 5-star. This one picked up where the last one ended. So the first whole book is them on this trip for a week. The second book is them coming home and figuring out who they are to each other and what happens from there, which I loved this one way more than the other one because they both realized it. They both were like trying to stop it and like really tried but like couldn't. And I don't want to give it too much away, but it was so good. So good. Like, you already know it's gonna have an HEA at the end because of the title. It's a romance book. It's not romance if it doesn't have an HEA. So, and for anybody that doesn't know what an HEA is, that's a happily ever after, which I didn't know for a long time. I had to Google it the first time I saw anybody write a review with that in it. But, so I ended up giving The Secret 5 stars. So good. I don't know why I waited. I should have just started The Secret, I should have, after the fair, just jumped into The Secret because it was so good. I loved it. So now let's go to February. Yeah, February. So the first book that I read was The Consequences by Giana Darling, which was the last book in the Evolutions of Sin trilogy. And again, 5 stars. Loved the ending. Not gonna tell you anything about it because you do need to read the first 2. But it was so good. I loved it. The next one that I read was Claimed by Cupid by Dana Islay. I read this one because I pre-ordered this book back in December. I ended up reading Dipped in Holly, which is a Christmas novella for Nick and Holly. And then she came out with Claimed by Cupid, and there's a 3rd one coming out, which I'm so excited for. But this one was so good. This ended up being a favorite of mine, even though it's like a small novella. And the next one was my buddy read of the month, Her Soul to Take by Harley Laroux. I loved this book. It was a favorite too. So good. I think everything that I've read so far by Harley Laroux has been a favorite. So first off, let me tell you, this book was hot. The piercing scene, you'll know what I'm talking about if you read it. You will, I'm telling you. Whew. The book was amazing. I loved it. The characters were relatable. Leon was a huge fictional crush now. Like, love him. Story was really good too. The next book is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I am trying to read Colleen Hoover's backlist. I am sorry, but something is going on outside and it's just gotten very loud. But Colleen Hoover is somebody that I am trying to read their backlist of. So everybody was talking about Verity because it's like a suspense romance, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like it that much. I gave it 3 stars. I did get scared. I got scared a couple of times. And the ending was like, what? Did I read that right? But anyways, not my favorite, but still gonna keep trekking on with my Colleen Hoover backlist. And so then after Verity, I ended up reading War by Laura Thalasser, which is the, sorry, I'm like looking at my notes and trying to talk to you guys, so my bad. But it's the Four Horsemen's book 2. I read the first one last year and decided that I want to finish the series this year because I really liked Pestilence. I didn't like War as much, but I loved the the heroine in this book too. I think I've liked them in all the books so far, but she was a real badass in this book and I loved her. She was so strong and like really like stood her ground for what she wanted and I loved that. And I did end up liking War, but this one wasn't my favorite in the series so far, or out of the 2 books that I had read so far. Pestilence was, but I did like War a lot, and I would recommend this series. The next book that I read, I did not realize was a second book in a series, but I'm not sure, like, I followed this whole book, so I'm not sure if it's like a standalone series where you don't have to read all of them. It must just be like another, I think the first book is like her cousin's point of view, but this one is The Dating Plan by Sarah Desais. Again, I got this book on Book of the Month and I ended up really liking this book. It wasn't a favorite, but it was a really good book. I thought it was cute and he thought he could handle spicy food. It was cute. And then I read a novella for Ice Planet Barbarians. I read Ice Planet Honeymoon. It's Bechtel and Georgie's story, and I really liked it. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked Georgie. I thought she was pretty badass, and Bechtel was, he's the chief, like, and he cares. He was so caring, like, it was beautiful. I read this one. This one was a favorite. I listened to the audiobook and had it on KU, so I was like reading along on KU with the audiobook with the Whisper Sync, I think is what it's called, and I loved it. I know people don't like talking about LJ Shen, but she's one of the first romance like authors that I really read, and this book is probably my favorite book I have ever read by her, and I have read a lot of her books so far. Like, because I'm trying to read her backlist as well, but In the Unlikely Event by LJ Shen, it was so cute. It's a second chance romance, and there were so many misunderstandings in this book. Oh, it was so good. It was a favorite for sure. Like, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. It was so good. I loved the romance. I loved, like, the past that they had, because it was like a once in a lifetime kind of situation, and it was beautiful. I loved it so much. I loved it so much that I went out and bought the book, actually, like the not hardcover, but like the paperback, like the physical book, because it was so good, and I want to reread it and like re-annotate the paperback, because I did slightly annotate the Kindle, the KU one. I'm sorry that I'm not giving you a lot on these books, but like, I go into all my books blind, like with very little information, because I don't, not only because I forget if somebody's told me, like people recommend these books, and at the time I'll put them like where I think I want to read them. If it's something I want to read right away or something that I just want to read in the future, I put them on my Goodreads in my different folders, so that I know. And then I put it in my like digital book journal so that I can go back to it if I don't feel like pulling up Goodreads. The next one that I read was COLLEEN, and so this was not my favorite Mariana Zapata, but I loved this book, okay? COLLEEN ended up being one of my like favorite guys, kind of. I can't say that because it has changed recently. But like everything that happened in this book was so good, and so the slow burn. I love Mariana Zapata's slow burn. It's so good. But yeah, anyways, loved it. Would recommend. If you like soccer romance, this is all about soccer, and it was really good. The next one that I read, so this one took me a while to read. I ended up finishing it in February, but I think I started it in like January. It was King of Iron Hearts by Giana Darling. This is, so you have to read the book to understand, like, all of the books. Maybe not all of them. I think it's after book 4. This is like a 4.5 poetry book. So it goes like after you've read 4, you can read this book and you'll understand why it was like published. I have a love-hate relationship with poetry because sometimes poetry is like amazing and beautiful and I understand it completely, and then other times I feel like a complete idiot like reading it because I'm like, what does that even mean? And that happened quite a few times in this book. However, I did end up giving it 4 stars because it was like a 50-50. Like, I loved a lot of the poetry in the book, and then a lot of them I was like, what? Huh? But what can I say? I only know some poetry, you know? Then the next one that I read in February was Barbarian Aliens, book 2 in the Ice Planet Barbarians. This one was with Liz and Rahash, and oh my god. I love Georgie. I might like Liz more. Scratch that. I do like Liz more. I thought she was awesome. She was there for her man, okay? She was there. And it was so good. The story, like the plot, everything. I loved it all. Which is becoming a theme here, and I love the new covers for this. I do plan on buying all the new covers as they come out. The next book that I read also went with the Ice Planet Barbarians books, and it was another novella. It's the Ice Planet Honeymoon for Rahash and Liz. And again, 5 stars. Loved it. Not a favorite though, like the main books are. The main books, both of them have been favorites, and I cannot wait for the 3rd one because the pre-order for the new covers just started, and I plan on buying it. Then the next one that I read in February, oh my Lanta. I did not think I would get this, but I got an arc of Bound by Avita Weiss, and I was nervous. Oh, I loved Feed so much, and then I read Skin, and I didn't like it as much. I liked some of it, but it wasn't like 5 stars for me like Feed and Bound were. Bound, so good. I cannot wait for the full book to come out so that I can read it. Oh, I loved it. And then the next one that I read is Deathsakers by Dr. Bill Bass and John Jefferson. I read this book because I want to be donated to a body farm when I die, because I find that to be fascinating, and the things that they learn from body farms are just amazing. But this is pretty much like where the body farm and like how it got its name came from and like why it was started, and I thought it was fascinating. And I obviously did not give that a star rating because it was a memoir. Oh my goodness, guys. I'm on to March. Okay, here we go with Marches. Whoop whoop. So March, I started off with Hooked by Emily McIntyre. I liked this book. I really liked this book. However, there was something lacking for me. I don't know what it was. Like, I really did like this book. I liked, like, Wendy, Peter, and, like, Hook's, like, story, and, like, it was a change up from, like, the Peter Pan stories and, like, a lot of the retellings, which I thought was nice. But it was, like, a mafia kind of romance, too, and, like, it was good. I'm not gonna lie. I would recommend this book. However, it was not my favorite, and I did only give it 4 stars. But it was good. The next one that I read was Strictly Professional. I am trying to get through Christina C. Jones' backlist because I have loved almost everything that I've read by her so far, and this book was nothing unlike the rest. I loved it. It was so good. I thought the premise was great, and like, I don't know. I forgot where I left off because I was distracted. Anyways, Strictly Professional. Great book. Really liked it. Really suggest Christina C. Jones. I really don't have anything to complain about with this book. It was good. The next book that I read was The Vanishing Half. Again, it was another book of the month. It's by Britt Bennett, and it was good. I liked it. I ended up finishing it. I thought I was going to DNF it, but I didn't. I ended up really liking it. Not really. I gave it 4 stars. I couldn't get into it as much as I would hoped. I think there's something with literary fiction that's really, like, hard for me to read. I don't know why. Like, I can't get into it as much as I get into some of the other genres, which I don't know why. Another book of the month book is next. This is Ariadne's by Jennifer Saint. I liked this book. I liked the story. However, this book bored me, and I only ended up giving it 3 stars, not 4. 3 stars. Because I liked it, but I was really bored through most of it. The next one was a free book that I downloaded, and it was These Dark Hearts by L.A. Cotton. This book is like a young adult, like, dark romance, and it was interesting. I liked it. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I'm not sure if I'll end up reading the next book. So this was the prequel novella for this book, and I did like it. I will say it was good. I'm just not sure because of the ages. Like, they were young teenagers, so I'm not sure I'll continue. I'm not sure. I might give it a shot. I don't know. The next one that I read in March was a favorite. Obviously, this is The Rake by L.J. Shen. It was the last book in the Boston Belle series, which I love that series, because if you don't know, I'm about an hour away from Boston, and so I actually knew, like, most of the places they were talking about, which makes me feel great, because a lot of books that I read are, like, based in California and other states that I've never been to, so we don't know them as well, but with it being Boston, a stink bug just flew in and, like, landed on my light. What was I saying? Yes. The Rake. It was the last book in the series that I needed to read, and I ended up loving it so much. Like, it was so good. I didn't realize that I needed this book, like, for the series, but it was so good. And I love a book with a girlfriend group, or even, like, when the books are about the girlfriend group, it always makes it better, because, like, I would love books about me and my friends. I mean, we're boring as hell, but, like, it's fun. I like getting all the friends' perspectives. The next book that I read is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I gave this book 5 stars. I really liked it, and this was like a second chance read for Taylor Jenkins Reid, because I wasn't the biggest fan of Daisy Jones and the Six. That's the one that I read. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I did like this one more. Actually, a lot more. It was fun, and, like, it was crazy. Like, the ending was like, what? Nuh-uh. It was crazy. I ended up reading another Christina C. Jones. So Strictly Professional had a second book, and it, like, continued. It was, it's called Unfinished Business, and I didn't like this one as much as the first one. Like, I honestly could have lived without reading this one, but I really did like that first one. It was good. The next one that I read was a Colleen Hoover book. Again, gotta love Colleen. This book was my favorite so far. Like, Regretting You, I understood the perspective from both characters, which is a mom and a daughter, and wow, it was so good. So good. I would strongly suggest you read this book because it was amazing. It's actually a favorite of mine now, and I recently bought the paperback for my birthday because somebody gave me a Target gift card and they had their sale, so I bought it and a couple of other books. The next book that I read was Caraval. It's from my bookshelf. I had purchased this one a long time ago in the, like, hopes of reading it, and I never got around to it. So I did. I read it in March, and I liked it. It was fun. However, it wasn't what I expected, and I kind of got bored at parts. That was all that I read in March. Yay! We're on to April. April, I read a lot of books, so I hope you're ready for this, okay? So, in April, I read 20 books. Crazy, I know. Crazy. But, here we go. I ended up reading all of my TBR in April. I only had 7 books on it for April that I planned on reading. And I obviously surpassed that and read all of them as well. So, the first book in April that I read is Her Soul for Revenge. Again, a favorite book. Loved it. Juniper and Zane. Like, I had already wanted Juniper and Zane. Not so much Juniper. You didn't get to see Juniper as much in the first one. But I loved Zane in the first one, and I loved him even more in this one. Also, again, the piercing. I already have this piercing, obviously, but, like, wow. Just all the scenes, all of it. The whole book, she is just so badass. Like, I love her as a character because she was so badass, but she was not as relatable as the previous book. But I love Zane too. Like, they're both not very relatable characters. But it was, again, a favorite book. The next one that I read is actually a novella. I found it on, I forgot, I'm going to put the name of the podcast here, but they read it to me, and I got to listen to it on Spotify. It's The A-List. It's by Evie Mitchell, and it's like a 1.5 in the All Access. It's 1.5 in the All Access series, and it was really good. Like, I liked it. It wasn't my favorite, and it was only a 0.5 because in the class that Frankie took, this couple is there as well, and I liked getting that class from somebody else's perspective and, like, their experience with it. So that was pretty cool. The next one that I read was because I've heard so much about it. It was Real. Again, it was an April favorite. I had a lot of favorites in April, I'm not gonna lie, but Real was one of them. I thought it was so good, and, like, I loved that he, like, really cared about her, and, like, even though they couldn't really be together, it ended up being so cute, and I loved it. Like, I don't want to tell you anything other than she's a star, and he's a director, and, like, it's so good. So good. Just go read it. Like, everybody's hype on it is 100% worth it. Next one that I read was Famine, which is book 3 in the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa. Again, loved this book. Famine was, I don't know if I liked him more than Pestilence. I might have liked him similarly, but I think I liked him more than I liked War. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But so good. Again, this book was awesome. Loved it. It was emotional, obviously, because Famine. All of these books are emotional. They're all dark romances, Cassandra. Come on now. Anyways, it was really good. I strongly suggest the series. I just downloaded the book for Death. I downloaded the KU of it, and I want to get the Audible so that I can do the Whisper Sync again, because that's how I've read the last 3 books. But so far, I'm loving the series. The next book that I read was, oh my goodness, so I got this book for free, and I thought that it was so cute. I've heard so much about Cassie Mint, and I love Little Red Riding Hood retellings. I don't know why, like, that's one of the fairy tales, it's one of my favorite fairy tales, is Little Red. It's called Cold Wood. It's part of a series, but this is the only book, and I'm pretty sure you can read them all as standalones. But this book was so cute. I gave it 5 stars. I ended up loving it. It was not like any of the Little Red Riding Hood stories that I have read, which was crazy. I don't know. I really enjoyed this one. Welcome back. Okay. I'm so sorry, but everybody was coming out, and then my camera needed to charge, so It is now later in the day. Let's finish this April. I don't remember where I left off. I'm assuming that I finished talking about Love in Other Words, because I'm pretty sure that's where I left off. But I did love that book. It was a favorite. I loved so much about this book, actually. But anyways, I'm gonna move on. The next book I read was Finley Donovan is Killing It, and oh my god, this book was hilarious. It ended up being a favorite too, and I laughed so much. So much! It was hilarious. Then after that one, I read Tilly Cole's It Ain't Me, Babe. So this was for my challenge of this month. I needed to read the first book in a series, and I had put this book towards this one to begin with, because I've been dying to read this book, and amazing. I don't know, I loved this. It had cults, it had murder, it had MCs, it had a lot. It was great, like, amazing. And I loved it so much that I bought the next book, but I still haven't read it. I'm nervous because I'm worried that I won't love it as much, because people have said that, or I've heard a couple of people say that this first one was great, but the next ones aren't that great. So I don't know. Either way, I loved this book. It was a favorite of April too. I had a lot of favorites in April. Like, I had a good time reading in April, which probably is the reason why I was in a slump in May. I don't know. I didn't read as many great books this month. Anyway, the next book was also a favorite, and it is The Dare by Harley Laroux. This was like a banned book that I read, and I read it with my friend again. I think it's like 100 and something pages, and it was so good. I loved it. I can't wait for Losers to come out, because when I was done reading this, I wanted to read it again. Like, it was so good. Ugh, I loved it. The next one that I read was Ugly Love by COLLEEN Hoover. Really loved this one. This one was good. I cried a lot during this one. It was so good. The next one was The Butcher of the Bay by J. Bree. This one was a serial killer romance, and I loved it. It didn't end up being a favorite though, but it was so good. Like, I genuinely loved both the characters, but things that happened were crazy. But I loved it. It was like a mafia serial killer, like, because like his friend's in like a mafia, and like he was like a trained assassin serial killer. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Like, so good. The next one I read was Ruthless Strangers. This book it's by Maggie Cole. I read it because I had heard so much about it, so much, and I really liked it, but it wasn't 5 stars for me. It was like 4, because I felt like it was missing something, and I don't know what it was. I do want to read the other ones, because I think this is the first book in a series. I'm pretty sure. And I want to give the next one a try. The next one that I read, I really like this one too, but it was only 4 stars because it was also missing something and that I don't know what it was. But it's Lingus by Mariana Zapata, and I thought it was awesome. Like, awesome. I loved it. I just felt it was missing something. Oh yeah. The next one that I read was Praise, and I loved this book so much. So much. It was a favorite too. First off, I loved all the kinks in this. Amazing. Then, on top of it, it was an age gap and an ex-boyfriend's dad. And loved it so much. And I loved his club. Like, I wish it was a real place. If anybody knows of if a place like this exists, please tell me, because I want to check it out. So moving on, the next one that I read was Love Flushed by Evie Mitchell. Again, this is the all access. I think this is book 2. yeah, this is book 2, and I loved it. So good. So good. It wasn't a favorite though. I think I like Frankie's book more, but I related to Annie a lot. I thought it was really cute. I like their history. I love how they like helped each other, and that's top notch for me. This one is Always Been You by QB Tyler, and it's a like a it's also a taboo romance that's dark, but it's so good. Like it's stepbrother, oh no, it's adopted brother, adopted sister, like romance, and it was just like so cute. I loved it. So after that one, I finally picked up the Brutal Birthright series. I read Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I love Sophie Lark. Like, I don't know why I didn't read her stuff sooner and why I wait so long between books. Because every time I pick something up by her, I end up loving it. And even if it's not like a 5-star, like top favorite, it's still so good and I love the writing. But I did like this one. It wasn't a favorite for the month, but it was one of the top books because Mafia. I like just got into this genre or this trope of mafia romance and love it. And then the next book was A Nordic King. This is part of a series, I guess, but I'm assuming that they're standalones. I'm not sure. I understood this whole book, so I'm assuming that each book's about a different type of king. I don't know. Anyways, this was a forbidden romance. It's a nanny and a king, and it was so good. I loved it. The kids in this too were so cute and like so opinionated and like adorable. I loved it. Two more. The next one was Unhinged by Only James, and I loved this one too. It was a favorite. I don't know why I put this one off for so long. Like, it was so good. I loved it, and now I can't wait to start the other ones in the series. I'm probably gonna take forever to read them too, but like this one was really cute, even though he would. It gave me like Umbrella Academy minus the powers and Criminal Minds minus the FBI. Yeah, loved it. There was even a Penelope. That wasn't her name. I forgot her name. I can't remember their name. Whatever. But it was so good. I loved it. And if you like that stuff, try it. It's so cute and it's so good. And then the last one was my favorite because as soon as I was done, I bought the physical copy because I want to reread it and annotate it. I was sucked into this book so much, and it was just Kellen. My heart, it hurt. But I ended up loving Charlotte. It was like a best friend's brother in the end, and it was so good, so emotional. I cried so much. But then there was parts where I swooned too, and I was just like, oh. But it was an emotional roller coaster. Please check trigger warnings before you read this book. I loved it so much that I pre-ordered Dark and Quirky. That's it. I'll put the picture up here, but like I pre-ordered that cover because it was just stunning and they released more. So, am I happy? Yes, I am. Will I be happy when I get it in? Oh yeah. That book may be one of my top favorites of the year. Like, it was so good. I may reread it again later this year. I don't know. But that was it. We are done here. Yeah, I would suggest reading all of these. Make sure you check your trigger warnings before you go and read any of these because a lot of them were dark. A lot of them were. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Please like, subscribe, and I promise I'm gonna try to do better. I know I say this all the time, but I promise I'm gonna try to do better. Bye. I hope you come back again soon.